A major correction. It is not Samuel Johnson who wrote Pamela. It is Samuel Richardson. Very, very important correction to make. We're going to take a closer look. Welcome back, everyone. Artist Journal, August 22nd, 2023. Broadcasting from the Summer of the Mind in Berlin, Germany. My name is Adrian Pocobelli. Playing my phone into my microphone. Lo-fi. Clown Vamp was wondering, how do you play the music at the start of the Twitter Spaces? I told him I press play on my laptop and put my phone close by so my laptop will be heard by the phone, and that is how I get music in. It is very lo-fi, so welcome back. I think it's going to be a shorter show, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed here, and thank you for all the wonderful comments yesterday. It was a homecoming of sorts coming back here. I'm glad people enjoy the show. I mean, usually when I finish, I just hand in my work as usual, and but as the day goes on, you feel better and better about it. So again, I appreciate the comments. So you probably recognize the artist here, Ezra Eslin. Her homage of sorts to the Barbie franchise. This is pretty funny, actually, how it's written. Barbie with a Y. I just noticed that. Only in theaters July 21st. She's having the best day. And then classic Ezra Eslin with the sword and the blood, decapitated head, and the gun, the violence. And here is maybe Ezra Eslin herself or some, probably mom buying the Barbie figure for the child, and the wonderful palm trees, by the way, in the background. So just kind of fun, totally awesome. And, classic Ezra Eslin, there's a couple of things that I'd consider kind of classic about her work. First is this, I guess what I'd call the line work, I suppose we would call it here. You see how the lines are always kind of separated? And there's this little gap here and there. That is classic Ezra Eslin. It kind of creates her style. It's one of the main elements or ingredients, you might say, trademarks of her style. Another is, I would say, this coloring that is not always outlined. You see how the blood is just red. It's not outlined. And you see the hearts on the dress, the lighting here. So kind of a combination of some things are outlined, some things are not. And I'd say that also is part of her, trademark style. And from a content perspective, of course, the violence and everything, the violence in the everyday. And almost like a satirical violence. She's having the best day. There seems to be satire of sorts. And yeah, so just a beautiful work here, age 3+. So nice, beautiful work. I mean, look at that. It looks like a poster. It's probably nicer than the Barbie movie poster. Let's take a look. Sold for half an ETH on one bid. And that was by H3XUM and sold for half an ETH. So $800. Hi, Barbie, again with a Y. And so cool work from Ezra Eslin out of Istanbul, if I'm not mistaken. So very quickly here, since we began with this, I was looking at ChatGPT to see what it was saying for the origin of the English novel. Now, Thomas Mallory, we don't need to go into this. These are kind of like pre-novel, Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan, 1678. These are kind of early things. You start to get closer here with Aphra Behn's Orinoco. And I think she wrote a ton in the late 17th century. You could, one of the first novels in English. So, a figure that has to be noted. But I think she's sort of, there's something, I guess, for lack of a better term, kind of, I think, tabloid-esque, or kind of like she, I put it this way, she's not, you read her more for the history than for the art oftentimes, but maybe that's debatable. And interesting topics here. We see them at the very beginning, a story of a noble African prince who was deceived, enslaved, and taken to the English colony of Suriname. So we see here profound topics, though, right? Colonialism, slavery. And here, this is generally considered, the first unambiguous, first novel in English, Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe. And of course, this also, brings up, Friday is not mentioned here, but the guy who Robinson Crusoe finds on the island. And back to our discussion on human nature. And we're going to here's Samuel Richardson, Pamela, who also wrote Clarissa, 1740. But back to our idea of human nature, if you remember the story of Robinson Crusoe, what happens? Robinson Crusoe is stranded on a desert island, and what does he do? He basically reconstitutes civilization, right? So it's kind of like this story, you might say, of human nature and of this desire to create and to dominate and to reshape nature, in humanity's image. One could argue is one of the many, themes we could identify or discern in Robinson Crusoe. So what does a human do that shows up to a desert island, right? So again, kind of a blank canvas of what does human nature start to do. So an exploration of human nature, one could argue here. And then, of course, we have Samuel Richardson, again, not Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson did the first dictionary, by the way. He's famous. I think he's 18th century, I think a little later. And yeah, I don't want to get too off course here, but famously, he wrote a lot of essays. I think he kind of repopularized Shakespeare a little bit. So here's Samuel Richardson, 1740. And then here, 1748, Clarissa. And then Henry Fielding is the author we were discussing who wrote Tom Jones in 1749. Wrote Shamala, a parody of Pamela in response. So I don't want to go too deep into this. And also Joseph Andrews, who also initially started as another parody of Pamela, but then took a life of its own. So the moral of the story here, part of why I'm going into this is the human nature component. But what you had here was Samuel Richardson and Henry Fielding, these two titans of the early English novel. They were responding to each other, particularly Fielding responding to Richardson. And the reason I mention that is because this is something that is kind of not stated enough in the arts, in the visual arts, which is artists respond to each other. You see this with Ernst sometimes, responding to de Chirico, even across decades. It's not like it has to be in real time, or incorporating Duchamp, right? Or you see Picasso's Surrealist period, responding to the Surrealists. So this is something that we also see at the beginning of the English novel. And of course, we see this in Renaissance art with, Raphael redoing his stanza, his room in the Vatican after being one of the architects. Can't remember which architect. The name's slipping my mind. Brunelleschi or anyway, one of the architects of the Vatican, who was in the Renaissance group, so the story goes, allowed Raphael to get a peek at what Michelangelo was doing in the Sistine Chapel, and came back and realized he had to completely redo his stanza where there's the School of Athens and then all the four walls there, which is a must-see if you ever, in your life, you simply have to see this. It is the summit, you could argue, of Renaissance art, the high Renaissance. Raphael at its height. And again, Raphael, I think Michelangelo finally, I said this was going to be a short show. Michelangelo, I think, felt a little bit ripped off by Raphael. But Raphael is one of the great synthesizers. One of these people who just absorbs other people's work. His master was was Perugino. Is it Pietro? It was Perugino, who was brilliant, but kind of because Raphael was his student and basically surpassed him by like age 19 or 20. Arguably, I'd actually say that's a debatable point. I think Perugino still is somewhat underrated. And actually, a lot of the innovation that's attributed to Raphael, often one could argue, is actually a Perugino innovation. But I'm not going to pretend to be more of an expert on these things than I am. I mean, I just know from going to the museums over the years. But you clearly see in Perugino's work where the source of Raphael's work comes from. Then Raphael comes along, absorbs Perugino, absorbs Michelangelo, and look, Raphael is considered the greatest. So it's just one of those, ironies of history, isn't it? I don't know if it's ironic. It's just one of those things. Anyway, so I thought we could do just an open lines here. We've had some great big guests on the last few weeks. I think it's time to just hear from. I always kind of want these were started, these Twitter spaces or X spaces. These spaces were begun as a way of people actually being able to say something back, and artists, because I know what it's like to be an obscure artist. I've spent most of my life there. And so here's an opportunity to talk about whatever you want to talk about. Are you working on a project that you're excited about? Do you feel like your work isn't being seen and so you just want to share it with people? Do you have comments or opinions, say, on anything we discuss here or anything in the art scene or even society at large? How was your summer? Come join some fun folks in the art community to share what you're working on and thinking about. So kind of a chill, open lines, a chance to just meet some people, talk about your art, get your work out there, pin your work, and all that sort of thing. Should be really fun tomorrow with RuneTune, and that should be great. So check that out. I have posted that in my Twitter feed, and thank you for the comments here. Chimosku Jackson, almost watch every show as you're always keeping it classy and knowledgeable. Keep it up, brother. So it was great to hear from Chimosku. Here we are at the 1 year anniversary here. Thanks to that little push by Chimosku Jackson. Also, RuneTune, love the new background to your show. Thank you. I am trying to improve things a little bit. You can see the little name and logo down here, the books in the background. I'm trying to somewhat, professionalize this a little bit. And it's fun to iterate. It's very fun when you have a project to just keep iterating. So to stick with it and keep iterating. So thank you. I hope you end up pulling down a book for reference. Yes, this is bound to happen. Also, I had no idea Chimosku was the influence to bring the show to video. Very cool. Yeah, so I was really happy to find that tweet yesterday. And Human Boy, I agree with RuneTune. Awesome background. Great to have you and Artist Journal back. And thank you, Human Boy. And this was interesting from Anwei. Thanks for the Taya shout out. I hope the whole community will take this DAO and shape it together. So that's so I guess Anwei maybe has something to do with Taya. So that is cool. So yeah, absolutely. And Taya has really come a long way in the last few months. Like I noticed they fixed the image loading problem, which was a structural problem that the website had, and they fixed it. So now everything loads up kind of fast and easy. So there's no reason for that platform not to, keep going and evolve. And also Maestro, after each new show, my Tezos wallet is empty. Thank you. Cheers. And thank you, Kyle Flemmer, for the congrats on the 1 year. Lepro Chant, big shout out. And Mortis Spiral, thank you for the 1 year anniversary message. So continuing on, LB. I thought this was interesting. Tezos has been my main home for my art for more than 2 years now. I feel this is about to change thanks to Zora, and I'm really excited. So I think that's pretty interesting. People seem to really like Zora. I haven't minted there yet, but I mean, it seems kind of exciting, and maybe it's the fact that it's an Ethereum layer 2 and it's early. I actually brought it up here, the website here, and they're really promoting the artists too, which is kind of nice. So this is the homepage, The Journey and the Process, a film by Zora. So I'm not sure what this is, but as you see, there's like a Sabato already right up there. And there's a lot of like really cheap mints. Maybe artists are, it's a way of like, this one is super cheap. We looked at that yesterday. And look, discovered featured, commemorative, art, video, music, podcast, drops, interactive PDFs. So they are doing a lot here. And I think I saw Dan Control at one point was highlighted here. So they're doing a nice job of just highlighting different artists and everything. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes, because one could argue the big competition that Tezos offers is the low minting fees. And so with very cheap minting, as far as I understand, I don't know how cheap. I'm going to have to try this myself. But is with very low minting fees, could be an interesting alternative. And again, as I've long preached here, multi-chain. Go multi-chain as an artist. You don't owe any blockchain anything, in the sense that you should be diversified, because as we've seen, Hen just shut down. And what were the people doing who weren't diversified? Maybe some of these blockchains don't make it. Maybe ETH gas fees are through the roof, and you all of a sudden you have Tezos. And just like we saw, what did we see recently? Oh, maybe they'll take your royalties away from you on ETH, so then you're also on Tezos, right? So it's sort of like good financial practice, good business practice, I would argue, is being diversified. That's why I'm a big proponent of being multi-chain as an artist. It's a pro artist viewpoint. And here, I can't remember why I brought up Sabato's work, but anyways, beautiful page here and everything. So, and look, 169 minted. I think I was going to look at the price, which I didn't see. Let me see if I can look at this. This is what I wanted to show. Almost minting for nothing. So that disappeared on me, but it was like 0.0007. So interesting. So it's kind of still early, actually, even though it's been around for a few months, seemingly. Rosa Mankman. So you might remember Rosa Mankman from the Beyond Binary glitch show, and I think they came in to kind of rescue the Sotheby's show, where it was like an all-male Sotheby's glitch show, and so after an outcry, curators were recruited in to kind of recurate and add some diversity to the show. So here we are, several months later, still waiting for Sotheby's to pay me for services rendered in April. I am very tired of this. 1 out of 4 emails get some vague "we will escalate" response, and then nothing for weeks, and then again nothing for weeks on end. Reprehensible. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny that Sotheby's isn't paying. It just kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like, what is going on there? They kind of managed to save their, they had a terrible PR situation that kind of got saved because they pivoted very quickly, to their credit. But now it's kind of turning back to a bad PR situation. So hopefully Rosa Mankman gets their money. So I thought this was interesting, particularly in contrast to our next tab that we're going to look to here. Charles AI. What some of you don't understand is that my pieces being raw AI art is part of the artistic statement. Sure, I could use Photoshop, but it would dilute the message. So kind of an advocate for raw AI. And for those that might not know, raw AI is basically pure text prompt, no editing. Okay? The message is that the spread of AI is inevitable, it will change our lives, and what else than raw AI could better represent these times of technological, cultural, and artistic revolution, where human and machine both cooperate to reach a common goal. Nowadays, what else than raw AI could make you question what real art is and spark such heated and passionate debates? And I do have to agree with this. I mean, raw AI really does bring up that perennial question, which always seems to re-show up, which is this art? What is art? And AI really does do that, and maybe raw AI is its purest form, to Charles AI's point. What other medium could create such emotions on its own? Raw AI art is a challenge to the status quo. So, interesting thought. But then I saw this. Midjourney just released a new feature, inpainting. You can use this feature to change the subject within an image and add more elements to it. Here's how to do it. And I thought to myself, is this still raw AI if you're using inpainting? And it's an interesting question in the sense that I'll just show you how this works here. I generated a photo of a dog in a park, but now I want to replace it with a cat. To do so, click the Vary Region button. So here is the new button, and then it gives you some selection tools here, just like in Photoshop, the marquee and the lasso. The following window will pop up using either the rectangle tool or the lasso tool. You'll want to drag over the dog to select it. So you select the dog. Next, change the prompt by replacing corgi, dog, with cat, and submit a photo of a cute cat in the park. And there the cat appears with basically the same background. And then you get different cats. So I guess my question is if you use inpainting, is it still raw AI? And maybe it's just kind of parsing like a distinction without a difference, but it does make you wonder. Is it because it's using a text prompt that it's raw AI? Is it because it hasn't been edited at all that it might be raw AI? So it did sort of raise that question for me. And here, look, they're putting in a flower now. You select this area here, a photo of a lush tulip bed, and there it appears. So it's all done with AI. There is no drawing required other than the lasso tool. Does that then make it raw AI or not? So just kind of an open question and just some cool developments in the tech here. Little Cakes, I really suck at moving around on OnCyber. Join the club. Little Cakes, join the club. I think this is their biggest stumbling block at OnCyber, is actually, like, I can do it, but it feels so cumbersome and laborious. Yeah, but feeling very cozy, surrounded by many friends' works in Santiago's gallery. And I actually prefer to, look at that great Hasdrubal waffle there. I actually prefer to watch a video than to do it myself, because I just want to see what it looks like, right? You can see all the areas without me bumping into things at OnCyber. Thanks for giving my soft sounds pieces their own wall. So all to say, cool gallery by Santiago with some really nice work and just kind of a different, in here that looks like Yuri J. Just like a cool curation. I mean, Santiago really has his own like art practice and curation. So I just think this is interesting. Saw some human kernel back there. Again, Hasdrubal waffle. Really just interesting. So it's a minute 16. We can't look at the whole thing, but there's some human kernel. Just awesome. Again, this is my favorite way of consuming this, is by video, because then I don't have to fiddle around and struggle to get through this, which is kind of an interesting aspect. Continuing on, some physical work, and I found this particularly interesting. So this is Greco, and so what do we have here? So we see physical work. We see a jar of paint, a paintbrush, shoe, and it looks like the shoe print is here. Here it's different. It's 20,000. Here it's just money. So you see here what looks like a digital file here. This looks like the original. And then it's almost the tension of the digital copy, but made physical, but not. But here you have basically a digital artwork, and I actually brought it up here. Let me just show you. So this is the digital artwork. 7,016 by 4961, luxury dinner without food, and kind of playing off the sports themes that Greco has been playing with. So here, changing the background to green digitally, and then printing it out, and then using, so there's this kind of idea, how do you justify the existence of a physical version of a digital artwork? Because when I talk to people, say, about my own art, and when it's physical, I make the point that if I have a physical version, I feel that I've done it in a way that justifies its existence as a physical artwork. And what I mean by that is there's something different or new, some kind of commentary on the physical nature of the digital work. For example, if I screen print a digital, mass on some of the Screen Memory series, uh, that is interesting for me because it's all of a sudden it's taking digital shapes and then using screen printing, and then you kind of interpret and consume these shapes differently because they're made with acrylic paint screen printed over top rather than just all on this kind of flat digital surface. And so in that respect, it becomes interesting. I'm turning the digital into acrylic paint with screen printing in a really kind of in a persuasive way, right? So here's another way to do it is, let's say you make several copies, and then it's almost like a word cloud of sorts here, or this kind of space here Greco is using as a place, and even down here, to add different ways of making this work unique. So we're back to this idea of kind of playing with copies that we can do digitally and also using a printer, but then how do you make them unique? And then, because this also impacts, the marketing of your work and the marketability, the sale ability, the ability to sell your work, because now what Greco can do, if these are all kind of hand painted, first of all, he can call it a multimedia, physical, original, unique work. And that's kind of interesting, isn't it? I mean, again, we're looking at this copying from a digital perspective, but from a physical perspective, this is a solution, right? Where all of a sudden you just kind of leave an area where you can do your own thing, and all of a sudden it's a unique, but without having to make a whole new composition. But nevertheless, as a consumer, I might go, oh, I really like the one with the dollar signs here. I want that one, and that's my favorite, and there's only one. So I can feel good about that, even though I know it's kind of part of this series. So these are the kinds of things that are coming up with digital art, I would argue. Well, clearly. And again, here we see this is the digital version selling for 200 Tezos, a one of one, with an orange background. So just all very interesting here. And finally, with Greco here, while we're on Greco's work, an oil painting. So this is 50 by 60, and this is also being sold as an NFT. I'm not clear. It doesn't say here you get the original painting, but I do have to say, this is quite beautifully painted. This is a really skillfully painted oil painting, from what I can tell here, and really nice kind of brushwork here. I mean, beautifully done. Destino, I assume that's the name of, it almost looks like a cricket player, doesn't it? So I'm not sure what the title is, but even these drips are quite beautiful. And they're probably, it's kind of, there's a famous, I might have it here. Do I? Oh no, it's under my computer. I'm going to bring it up tomorrow. It's actually propping up my computer right now. There's a famous Jasper Johns. I think it's on the cover here, and there's many, and it's of a flag, and he, of course, of the American flag, and he's used it many times. And what I love about it is how he emulates the drips of paint, but with this kind of marker. And, it kind of looks like the same thing is going here. And you might say, oh, like, is that legit? But I mean, Jasper Johns is doing it, and it kind of adds an interesting element of, like, there's an interesting meta there of, is the drip, if you draw the drip, is that authentic, that drip? And does it matter? And if it's not a natural drip, maybe that makes it more interesting. And whatever the case, wherever you land on that, there is a commentary, and really, I'd say the real persuasion is actually in the art. Does it look beautiful? Here, I think these drips look pretty beautiful. And look at this. I mean, there's also a commentary here as it goes across the outline of the horse's head. Again, showing, self-conscious in its artificiality. All right, so just kind of interesting here. Cool work. Very cool work, Greco. You can guess who this is. So this is Rinny Fish with a beautiful physical here. Beautiful physical version. We don't have too much information. So thanks, Daniel. I'm going to paint acrylic on my old frames today. It will also look good, I think. So this, I'm not sure if this is a inkjet, if this is actually something else. It looks beautiful either way, or even a lenticular. It doesn't look like a lenticular, but just interesting to see. And I have to say, it looks great in this glass casing here. A frame can add a huge amount to a work, interestingly. If you've never framed your work, it can really, it does change the feeling. It's one of those things. So here's also a collaboration between Score and Rinifish. And of course, Score is Saiko Ihara. Eternal Bond. So this isn't released yet. There's going to be, it starts in 4 hours here at a price of 0.05 ETH. And let me just bring it up for you. Nice music too. My mic is super sensitive, so the music might be a little quiet. I need to get a new mic. One thing at a time. Really soothing. I hope you can hear that. Incredibly soothing. So a beautiful 30-second work here by Saiko and Rinifish. And of course, you see Rinifish's characters here, and then Saiko's character maybe in the middle. Beautiful collaboration. So that is minting in a few hours. So you can probably guess who this is. Denny P. Thibodeau, which looks like Hasdrubal Waffle. And I mean, pretty clearly, unambiguously, I would say, I found this to be quite a powerful work, I have to admit, or I have to say. Kind of like these tiers, again, using like these kids' tools, and also like, remember that tablet from like the 1990s that it looked like Hasdrubal Waffle bought on eBay or something, and was, so if you remember that episode, maybe he's using that. I mean, so just again, the textures are gorgeous. And there's another thing I want to point out here, which again, kind of going back to this theme I was discussing yesterday of making it look easy. This is brilliant. Leaving, again, it's kind of like leaving your process behind, not worrying about getting a perfect selection of the character here as a layer. So just kind of like cutting it out, doing a pretty nice job too. Like it's a fairly careful job, importantly, I would say, but not worrying about getting every little white thing, white pixel here in the outline out. So I think that's I found that actually super interesting as usual. And then here you see this just beautiful, almost rare video, back to the user interface as subject matter. And again, sort of like we saw with RJ, celebrating the user interface of these old paint programs, right? And then, what does that do? Maybe that's a layer, so just beautiful work here. And then again, this beautiful frame and background, which just brings it all to life. And like, I mean, what is this? Tears with eyes on a hot dog? Just classic, sad snack, boo-hoo. So probably just stream of consciousness. So Denny P. Thibodeau, assistant manager at Sunglasses Hut, is now the account here. So, and I believe this one here, the Demiurge, was sent to me. So big thank you for that, I think before I left. So appreciate that. Here it is. And just awesome. Edition of 5, and just beautiful work here. Kind of looks like the same program, hey, but a different user interface perhaps here. And just kind of giffing it out a little bit. And then again, that contrast of the static here and the dynamic in the background just kind of adds a poetry to it. So beautiful and poetic here from Denny P. Thibodeau. Here's another one, Untitled Slide Piece number 8. And just more interesting digital celebration here. A celebration of digital texture. Just beautiful here. And another one, Scanners BPTE, Scanners Benjamin Pierce Tribute Edition. And so referencing, I assume, the David Cronenberg film, Scanners, and where the guy's head explodes. I don't think I've seen that, but I mean, I've just been around enough where I know about that. I think also Haiti Roquette has also done a tribute to Scanners there. So those would actually hang beautifully together, wouldn't they? So just another cool work here. This was just released August 5th. And here's one more. August 4th, Doodle Descending a Staircase. So a play on Marcel Duchamp's nude descending a staircase, one assumes. And here, multiple mouths here, and almost here's the staircase, and here is the nude descending the staircase. So super hilarious, actually. Brilliant, as usual. Doodle descending the staircase, number 8, by the great Hasdrubal Waffle, now known as Denny P. Thibodeau. If you've never listened to that Twitter space, it's on YouTube with Hasdrubal Waffle. It is absolutely fascinating. It is, I'm very proud of that recording that we did there. That was great. Continuing on, this got a little bit of attention, and deservedly. Very interesting work here. This is by Grotesque Chic. It's called Title. Nature displays its violence in beautiful ways sometimes. Mouse drawn on Deluxe Paint 2, 2023. So mouse drawn. So let me just see. Maybe I can make this bigger. Yeah, look at how huge this is. So mouse drawn. Look at how big it is. Maybe that's part of the secret of this work, is it looks like it's all manually done and doing this wave here. I mean, it's hard to imagine. So it's done with a mouse, interestingly, and just really interesting textures here. And I was going to say, I wonder what program, but it was Deluxe Paint. So just really cool here and really beautifully done here. Again, nature and pixel art, for whatever reason, has just a natural contrast. Continuing on, RJ with a little bit of, this looks like some kind of enigmatic scene here. What I found particularly interesting is called Enshrined, Worship Through the Screen. And as you can see here, see on the top left, you have, as we see here, the same as that Mac interface. So still playing with the UI here, a bit of a meta here in this window, and then this kind of scene, this natural scene with a monument in it, seen through a screen, and a bit of a glitch there. So interesting work from RJ for 8 Tezos. There are 8 left. I'm scared to look if there are any of those other works left that we were looking at yesterday. Silva Santus, Rescue. So this is from the 17th, so a relatively new one, a glitch ROM. Nice piece. Kind of reminds me of Greece a little bit. The beaches out there. Really beautiful along the beach here. I don't know what kind of processing is done here, but it kind of has a bit of a different feel to it. The pixels, they're almost like these kind of circular rectangles here with the helicopter coming through. Nice piece. Looks like it's sold out. Oh no, 3 left at $320. And here's another one. Got him. So a fighter plane, almost like flight simulator of sorts. And again, playing almost with user interface again, but within a game. Of the plane and celebrating that, and just the game itself and the drama of going a jet fighter, MiG-29 fighter pilot. This would go got him. Now, is that the name of the Roy Lichtenstein work? What is that called? Roy Lichtenstein jet. Is that called? This one here. Wham. That's okay. So it's not called got him. I was almost wondering if there was a distant reference there. Okay, continuing on. Okay, we got to go fast. Mech.txt, Pillar of Salt. So interesting, another what seems to be unreleased work with just a little bit of GIFing here in this kind of bright green flashing, just a tiny bit. So interesting experimentation here, 6,400 views. Impressive. And here's another work based on a photo by Jord Creates. Daily practice. Special thanks to Jord Creates for allowing me to draw based on their great photo reference and comments. So a little clue here into Mech.txt's interpretive style. So very interesting here and beautiful. So how many? So 926 views. This was just posted this morning. And here's the process. Let's look at this. So this is interesting, because if you're wondering if Mech.txt puts this as a layer underneath, he doesn't, seemingly. And maybe that's actually a better solution than tracing, is because then you get more of a natural distortion, which maybe makes it look more like a work of art than just some traced work. So interesting revelation here from Mech.txt. A beautiful beach work and making it look easy, actually. Stalamir, about to touch some grass, sand, and sun. Congratulations, Stalamir. And, I was working on some beach works, and so this is a really nice job that Stalamir did here with this palm tree, sun, beach. Very nice. Continuing on, you can probably guess who this is. Goyong Arts, also known as Goyong Good Morning. This kind of looks like a work in progress, doesn't it? And you see the trademark kind of masked out digital kind of pixelated areas of everywhere else is illustrated. Nice flat blue here. Probably much more interesting than a gradient. So beautifully done here. Kind of looks like New York, if I had to guess. But not sure. This almost looks like Central Park or something. But these are buildings here. So I'm not sure what's going on or what city this is. I don't think we get a clue. And New York maybe has taller buildings than this. So I'm not sure where this is. Collection of Punk 7635. Okay, so this is probably an older work, interestingly. The Kisser. So this is a collaboration, hilariously, between Ed Marola and Eduardo Pulitzer. And Ed's going to be on the Twitter space a week from tomorrow. So that is exciting and looking forward to that. The Kisser with Love from the 60s. So interesting, another kind of, going in a slightly different direction here, it seems, from a content perspective, and even a bit from an execution perspective here from Ed Marola. Still recognizably his, but different. And so interesting kind of photo, kind of family with Love from the 60s, kind of a family theme so far in the last two works we've seen. And again, this is a collaboration, interestingly, with himself, seemingly. Pamelo Cerrone, Pablo. So a couple of works here, and another kind of illustrative, pixelated GIF here. A lot of fun. This is a 1-of-1 for 45 Tezos, which is only $31 these days. So if you don't have a Pamelo Cerrone 1-of-1, they are reasonably priced here. Disco Devil edition of 8 for only $1.54. So again, Pamelo has been around this scene for quite a long time, and very consistent minter. I thought this was interesting. This is something that maybe isn't utilized enough. The so-called dancing ants in Photoshop and using them as subject matter and kind of keeping them. Maybe you record your screen in order to get them. So, the selection tool here we see in what are often called the dancing ants, this moving kind of almost like little ants here that represent your selection in Photoshop. So interesting work here from Anax Molina. And moving right along here, Nibirius, the Ars Goetia, and again, Cerberus Cerebus Caribus, and it's called Nibirius. So again, I'm not sure if Daniel W. is using AI to kind of create different combine mythological traits and figures. I'm not sure, but pretty interesting. And yeah, this is exactly what you think of as the three-headed dog. I think at the end of the Inferno there, by Dante, I think. Or is that the devil that's three-headed at the end? We can look that up another day. Let's look that up, though. Let's not forget, and the Jasper Johns. Really, I just want to, from a technical level, really enjoying. There's some evolution here in the way it's being printed. Really nicely done here. Again, this kind of paper digital print. Digital image with kind of a paper feeling to it. Really nicely done. Nibirius, interesting title. Scarlet Blossom, edition of 5. This is sold out and now 50 Tezos from Bridget, New York City, who has great taste in art. So this is from a few days ago. So nice piece, edition of 5. Look at that. Look at that. So just really nice, I assume, digital artwork. Scarlet Blossom by Katerina Create, who has been a joy to follow here. Timothy Julien, Eclectic Affair, kind of going in a slightly new direction from these interiors, and a bit of almost a Hockney feel, that kind of quiet pool architecture. You can't even tell if the pool is full. Interestingly, you have the shadow. Is it an empty swimming pool? Well, it would have to be quite deep if it is. And the palm tree, still playing, very consistent with the style, using outlines as an opportunity for different patterning, as we see here. in the lawn or the green grass or whatever it is, and the walls here. And so Ricano, so you might remember this style of Ricano's before he went into the objects that were kind of falling apart. Let me just show you, actually. Of course, this is Ricano from the last few months here. FIFA, where the objects are kind of, disassembling and reassembling. But now returning to this earlier style with gradients and lines, similar to Daniel W., but different. Markedly different, particularly in the outline. Daniel W. does not keep the outlines, whereas Rocano does, and there is a difference in palette oftentimes and application, you might say, of the gradients. So here are a couple of parrots, maybe happy to do something kind of natural, static. Go back to this, look at that sun, very interesting. Oblique occasions, addition of 25 for 2 Tezos. And here's a couple more here. Interesting kind of plants below here. Summer breeze, and this is 25, addition of 25 for 2 Tezos. And one more here, some sailboats docking, addition of 25 for 2 Tezos. So nice work and just interesting to see Ricano return to this earlier style. And continuing on Somfe, and this is an addition of 10. I guess it's 100 on secondary. And I thought this was pretty cool. These ducks here that are almost joining into each other, as you see. So, and just like this beautiful kind of, this rainbow gradient kind of, they become one to a certain degree. Nice work, whole. Perfect title there. Here's another one that Somfe posted on Twitter. And kind of cool subject matter here. Almost looks like these National Geographic documentaries here and playing with this kind of glitched out, rainbow-esque. Look at that. So almost a metaphor for the whole art style here is this cheetah running. Beautiful. Dr. Version with a nice new piece. Great color and nice, just there's something that does hit in this one quite a bit. This beautiful kind of black and white with the green, almost DeCurico colors here again. And just something really nice about it. And the green and the orange, don't really have too much to say about it other than it just really looks good. And these interesting pyramids. Edition of 13 sold out, now on secondary for 100. And they were selling for 5 Tezos each. And Dr. Version still retaining 6. So you may be able to put an offer in on that. And Renki, Hadaboo, this is Hadaboo. I plan to go here someday. So super prolific. Just bringing up the latest here from Renki. Kind of cool digital noise and structure here. Just kind of an interesting work by Renki. And usually 10 available for 11 Tezos. And here are some of the other works by Renki from the last few weeks here. So super prolific. I think Renki does one a day, if I'm not mistaken. So very cool. And just wrapping up here, last days of summer, Louis, and just another kind of interesting kind of collage of sorts. Eccentric Fried Chicken is the series, and edition of 7 for $1.73. And here you see the sand done in one way, so kind of a summer vibe in this show. And you see almost this oil painting, but then mixed with like print and collage. And again, the hair, one kind of patterning, and the sky, a different kind of, oil painting and everything. So it almost looks like, in the background here, almost looks like Google Deep Dream from like 2015 or something. Interesting work. And also Turkarak, I did want to hit on this series here, just kind of out of nowhere, fully Bible 1, Jesus on trial. And then you see these little edits put in here by Turkarak. So these, so just interesting work here in this Bible that Turkarak found that is kind of visually represented here with almost these photograph-esque images, and it looks like it's Turkish, if I had to guess here underneath. There are 4 of these, and here's the betrayal of Judas, where he goes to kiss Jesus here. Judas betrays Jesus, fully Bible 2. And here's another one, Holy Spirit come upon the faithful with great power. So kind of a wild Bible here with these kind of, pictures to represent what's happening, the baptism of Jesus. And again, it looks like Turkarak has put some edits in here, so just interesting work here from Turkarak. And also, finally, Demon Ego with an edition of 10 and almost going with a comic book panel format here. Works beautifully. It looks beautiful. And yeah, just nice combination of different, images, portrayals, representations, mediums, and everything. Again, using that notebook format and even a little bit of, something on top and at the bottom. A movie with all scenes raw, available for 12 Tezos on primary, 8 left, and 80 AD Champ with just a cool kind of physical work here. And just nice painting here from 80 AD. And this is Strange P, who I think has been the person commenting for a long time, wondering why their work is not on here. So I finally saw, and here is some of their work, kind of this augmented reality here in normal space with a bit of synth work. So kind of 3D animation. Kind of cool music, too. Almost like a Detroit techno sort of thing. People dancing. Nice music. I wonder if Strange P made that music, too. Great. Nice track. Mikey de la Creme with another blues work here. I didn't see this minted anywhere, but looking good. And more with an Arctic sort of feel, again, using Midjourney, probably raw AI. Gotta love the AI signature there. That is hilarious. Really cool. I don't see a link to anything, so maybe just post it online. Sky Goodman with some shoes here. A study in the de-evolution of heels, synesthesia fashion line in the Lost Sneakers series, so AI and glitch. And this is August 20th, 2023. Already 255 Tezos. So I assume sold out on primary, and just some interesting colors and these high heels kind of mixed with sneakers seemingly and kind of devolving into each other. The urge to merge and devolve. And finally, Tukes with a new AI work. I believe it's new and just interesting structure and color as usual from Tukes. And that is your show, my friends. Hopefully I see you on Twitter Spaces. Just come by and say hi. It's a super casual one. Bring a coffee, talk about your art or even what you want to do, not even what you have done. It's just an opportunity to hang out and share a little bit about yourself and what you're up to. Until next time, take care.